Hello, gorgeous ladies of the Break the Cycle Facebook group. I'm like super excited, but also very nervous for, for this live experience. So if you are here with me, go ahead and say hi, drop a comment, drop a heart, drop a like. Let me know that you're here. And if you are watching the replay, then go ahead and hashtag replay. So I am nervous to chat about this because these relationships have been wildly painful. Like I went back to like my very first relationship as I was preparing for this series. Obviously, I went back and wrote down all of the experiences that I had in each relationship and what lesson I learned from them. And there was a lot of emotion that came up. And so this is really vulnerable for me. And I'm really glad that I get to share it with you because my whole intention is that you can see that you can recover from anything. And no matter what, you can take the pain that you've experienced and turn it into your passion, your purpose, your lesson, something that can help somebody else. There's always a purpose for our pain. So again, if you are here with me, just say hi. I'm looking to see if I can actually see you guys' comments and stuff this time around. I'm getting the hang of using Zoom on Facebook. So there are actually quite a few new ladies in my world in this Facebook group. So for those of you who are new to me and joining this Facebook group for the relationship series, my name is Morgan Danielle. I'm a relationship coach. I specialize in helping women break free of the toxic relationship cycle and become an energetic match for the life and the love that they desire. And this is literally the work of my life because I have had such extensive experiences in my relationships that have led me to the work and the healing that I do with women today. And so really my intention for today is to inspire you, to motivate you, to move you, to just show you what is possible in your healing journey, because I am not the same person that I was 6 months ago. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I'm not the same person that I was 10 years ago. And I was kind of like deciding where I wanted to start with this story, because I don't just have 7 toxic relationships. I've had many, but these were the most significant. And so I was going to start with my daughter's father. But that's actually not where it started. Like today, I decided I was starting with the very first person that I ever had a toxic relationship with. And so first I want to start by saying, like, again, this is very, very personal. And I would like for the information that I share here, like I didn't do this on my personal profile because this is more private. So the information that I share here, I would love for it to be kept here. And also, I'm telling you about my experiences in my life. And other people can have like opinions about what I teach and disagree with me in those areas. But what I do ask is, like, when I'm sharing these personal experiences, like I don't need anybody's opinion on my personal experiences. And so I hope that everybody can respect that here. I did have like, that was, something that I posted about the other day. People commenting on telling me that I'm doing my experiences wrong. And I don't think anybody has the right to tell that to anybody. So these are my personal experiences, and I'm so happy to share them with you. But if there's anything that you disagree with in my personal experiences, I ask that you probably just keep it to yourself. But I think that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to what I chat about. So that being said, I'm gonna make sure that I can see this, that everybody can hear me real quick before I get started. And if you're here with me, just tell me that you can, if you can hear me, just let me know. Okay. All right. So day one of the relationship series. This was my very first relationship. Like I said, I planned on starting with my daughter's father, but that is just not where it started for me. And so my very first toxic relationship started my freshman year in high school. And so again, like I wasn't going to talk about my high school relationships because it's just so long ago, but I think it's really, really important because that's where a lot of our painful experiences start, is obviously in childhood with our parents, and then in high school, and then into our adult life, right? And so my very first relationship was with somebody who I went to high school with, and I was a freshman in high school and they were a super senior. So a super senior is somebody who did not graduate their senior year, and they had an extra year in high school. And so for the sake of names, we're just going to call everyone Vlad. And so this person, this is Vlad number one. What I'm going to be sharing inside of this is like the dynamic of the relationships, the patterns that you can really start to see in my relationships, the impact that it had on me, and the lessons that I learned from it. Because I believe that every single relationship that we have, and every painful experience that we had, is an opportunity to learn something. And when we can look at it in that way, it becomes more of a spiritual practice than something that we're constantly judging and demonizing, right? And so it really takes it relieves a lot of the pain if we can really come from that place of what can I learn from this, rather than demonizing it and blaming it, right? And so I was in this relationship with this person, and like I said, it was my very first like high school relationship. He was older than I was, and I remember I actually blocked so many things out from high school. It's like a very rare thing that I can remember anything from that time, but I really like took a lot of time to dive deep back into this relationship. And so I remember him being, I met him through a friend, and he was very charismatic. So I had a pattern of going towards very charismatic, overpowering guys. That was really what I was attracted to, because in my childhood, and obviously in my adolescent, my teen years, I grew up with a family that was very, very controlling. Very controlling. I would say like an addiction to religion, very strict, overwhelming, lack of boundaries, all of those things, right? And so you see that from my very first relationship, you see how this is manifesting. And so this person, he was very overpowering, he was manipulative, he was wildly toxic and abusive. But I was very turned on by this guy, like from the very beginning, because he resembled so much familiarity from what I experienced in my family. And so he was, what really lured me in with this guy was he offered me an escape from what I was experiencing at home. And although, no, we'll go with that. So he offered me an escape from what I was experiencing at home, even though what I was experiencing with him was actually worse. And so he was offering me drugs, alcohol, and attention. And when we actually got into a relationship is kind of when things hit the fan. He was giving me Xanax and Adderall. It was something that I became extremely addicted to for many, many years, even after this relationship. And when he kind of got me hooked on him, Xanax and Adderall. He would always, find alcohol and all of those things. That's when he started to sexually assault me. And for anybody who is triggered by sexual assault or hearing about it, or you get triggered, I guess easily, if I want to say that word, then please feel free to just like hop off if you have to, if you don't want to hear about it. But he became very controlling. He started sexually assaulting me very early after we started having a relationship. And so he would love bomb me. He would really give me a lot of love and adoration, tell me how much he loved me, how much he cared about me and wanted to be with me. And when he would hurt me physically, sexually, all of those things, he would always apologize afterwards and tell me how sorry he was and how he didn't mean it. And if I ever told anybody, that he would kill himself. And so that was the dynamic of the relationship, where it was really, really manipulative. So he would do these really hurtful things to me, and then he would apologize and then threaten to end his life if I ever talked about it. And so that was really a form of manipulation, control, and just straight up being abusive, right? And so I really felt like I had to punish myself for being in this situation, because although he was hurting me, I felt like it was my fault, that something was wrong with me, that if I continued to go back to this person, then it was my fault and not really his. And so what started to happen, I struggled with low self-esteem before I was even in this relationship with him, but the experience that I had with him really exacerbated everything that I already felt about myself. I didn't feel good enough. I really struggled with low self-esteem. I started having eating disorders when I was in 6th grade. And so by the time that I was in 9th grade, I switched from anorexia all throughout middle school to when I started having this experience with him. It turned into bulimia. And so again, it was a way of harming myself, punishing myself. And that's really a lot of what bulimia is about, is like self-punishment. If you struggle with shame and guilt, bulimia is really associated with those emotions, and it's a form of self-punishment. And so how this relationship really started to impact me was this was my very first trauma bond. And I would have rather been with him than at home with my family. So I continued to go back to him because that was a form of escape, whether it was, the drugs, the alcohol, or the attention that I was getting from him. I felt on some level that it was better than being home. So I continued to go back to this person. And I would say that this relationship probably went on for about a year. And so this is the pattern that I've seen with other relationships that I have, that you'll be able to see as I talk about this further and as it progresses. But it was, where was I going with that? So the love bombing is something that started here. Control, manipulation, aggressive behavior, and abuse. And so that's what became really, really normal for me. And so throughout this relationship, and lying and cheating. And so throughout this relationship, he had slept with every single one of my friends. He constantly lied to me, constantly manipulated me, constantly gaslit me. And every single time that we would break up, I would end up going back because there was that emotional addiction there. And so many people just didn't understand it. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many people that just get tired of hearing about your issues with that guy that you have a trauma bond with because they don't understand. And so, that's where you really start to isolate. You think that nobody understands you, and people are just quite tired of seeing you experience the same thing over and over and over again, and you not doing anything about it. And so I lost pretty much all of my friends, which was really, really hard. It caused a major wedge in all of my friendships. I started failing school. I, like I said, developed a severe Xanax and Adderall addiction. I started drinking alone in my room by myself. I started wetting the bed in my freshman year of high school because of the trauma that I was experiencing. And ultimately, that relationship went on for, I think, about a year. And this was the catalyst for so many issues moving forward. And so I remember when he ended up apologizing to me for all of the things that he put me through. And when he apologized to me, I remember he was texting me, and he just said, "I'm so sorry, yada, yada, yada." And I told him, "I wish you would die." And it was either a day, 2 days later, he ended up driving his car into a brick or stone wall and dying. And so I don't know if that was on purpose, or I don't know if it was an accident, but it ended up happening. And so that whole experience was the catalyst for the absolute worst times in my entire life. And to be quite honest, I know that I wasn't the only person that he had sexually assaulted. He sexually assaulted a lot of other girls in my high school. And so it was just I really struggled with his death, but when I looked in hindsight after I healed from that experience, I just think that, these things happen for a reason, right? And so how that relationship impacted me moving forward was I felt like something was wrong with me. I was self-harming. I was self-mutilating. I continued to go down a really, really dark path of drugs and alcohol. I continued to get worse with the drugs that I was doing. I didn't only do pills and weed, but I also got into heroin and some other really hard drugs as well. And the way that it impacted the relationship to myself was I constantly felt like I deserved what he did to me. And I was just so young at the time. I didn't get the help that I needed. I didn't get any of the therapy. I didn't get any of the, positive reinforcement that I needed at that time. So things just continually got worse. And I would say that the lesson that I took out of this, I remember, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago now, I was starting to get help for my mental health. And I remember sitting in my therapist's office, and she was having me do this exercise where you're sitting in one chair, and this person that you have all these things to say to is sitting in the other chair. And so I chose, this guy as that person, and you're supposed to rip up magazines and say everything that you want to say to this person. So I'm assuming that was just a form of relief or release in that sense. And so as I'm ripping up these magazines, I'm talking to him and I'm saying, you're the reason that I have this eating disorder. You're the reason why I'm addicted to drugs. You're the reason why I struggle with depression. You're the reason why I can't have a normal relationship. You're the reason why I'm so fucked up. And like, I just remember saying all of these things. And as I'm saying this, and as I'm ripping up these magazines, it like clicked in my head that I was giving so much power over to this person that wasn't even alive anymore. I was blaming him for all of the things that I felt, all of the behaviors that I had. And of course, that kind of makes sense, right? It makes sense why somebody would do that. However, it was what was keeping me very stuck and very damaged. And so through that experience, what I learned was, yes, what he did to me was like, this relationship was horrific. To be quite honest with you, I don't even think I could capture the severity of it. And also, I don't want to get graphic here for those of you that do struggle with trauma from these types of things. I really can't grasp how horrific this relationship was. It was the worst thing that I ever experienced in my entire life. And like, I'm even getting emotional about it now because I feel it's something that I numbed out for a long time. And it caused me to be very dangerously promiscuous as well. Like, I would sleep with just about anybody because of that trauma. And then when I started healing, I actually went all the way on the other end of the spectrum, because that's how healing goes. It's like you go from one end to the other, and then somehow you find your way back in the middle. But I'm getting emotional because I feel I did shut off like that experience for a very, very long time. And I just feel so much love and compassion for that little girl that I was. Like, when I think about that, I was like 14 years old, like 3 years older than how old my daughter is now. And it's just, I hated that girl for a really long time. I hated myself. I had so much resentment towards myself. Like, when I say, like, it wasn't just that I didn't like myself, like, I had deep self-hatred for a very long time. And it all stemmed back to obviously my childhood, but also these experiences here. And so what he did to me is his fault. 1,000%, that's his fault. That's on him. But the healing was my responsibility, because I was giving him so much power over me. Saying that somebody is the reason why your life is fucked up, it gives them so much power, and it's just not fair, because you have so much more power than you give yourself credit for. And I didn't realize that at the time. Like, I am so much stronger, and I even then was so much stronger than I gave myself credit for. And he did not have the right to dictate my life in that way. Like, what, I'm going to spend an entire lifetime harming myself and making excuses of why my life sucks and why everything is horrible and why I have the relationship to myself that I did because of what this person did to me? I realized I was not going to give that fucking person that satisfaction. It was my responsibility to experience it was my responsibility to take what happened to me and heal from it. I always say, like, what happened to you isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal from it, because it's not fair to you to live your life based on what somebody did to you. Like, you have such great potential for what your life and your relationships can be. And so many of us are stuck blaming that other person and having so much resentment towards that other person and hating that other person. And the thing is, when we do that, we're still giving them so much power, and they do not deserve that kind of power over us. Like I see all the time, it's like the women that go through these nasty divorces that experience narcissistic abuse and all of the things. Like I've dealt with that in my other relationships, as I'll, talk about in the next few days. And I've worked with so many women who have experienced narcissistic abuse, and it's like they are still operating, or they were before we started working together, but operating from a place of low self-esteem, low confidence, not being able to trust people in relationship and all these other things because of what they experienced with that person. I always say, like, that person does not deserve that kind of power. You know what I mean? Like, this is where we get to take our power back from the people that hurt us. A lot of what I talk about inside my Empowered Academy is really regaining your power, your confidence, being able to forgive. Forgiveness isn't for the other person. Forgiveness is for you to be able to say, like, I'm done letting this control me. I'm moving forward. Because if we continue to have that resentment, if we continue to harp on all of the awful things about this person and everything that they've done to us, we're continuing to relive that experience over and over and over again. And so it's literally like you are being traumatized over and over and over again. And I was for so many years. I continuously was re-traumatized by harping and ruminating on what had happened to me. And so by allowing yourself to take your power back from these situations and wipe your hands of it and say, you know what, like, yes, what they did to me was horrific and awful, and I didn't deserve that. But it's my opportunity to heal. It's my responsibility to heal. And I truly believe that we go through situations like this so that we can help other people in some capacity, whether it's in a coaching form, whether it's in therapy form, whether it's our children. Regardless of who it is, it's like, your pain is not for no reason. The pain that I've experienced in all my relationships, like, I'm at this point where I can say that I'm so grateful for not only this experience, but all of these other experiences, because I've been able to connect with women on such a deep level that I never would have been able to get with them, because I've experienced this. And so, and I can't tell you how many women who have just been drawn into my world that have had a very similar experience to what I just mentioned. And so, it's like, I believe that I attract these people so that my healing can be a ripple effect for them. So I never in a million years back then thought that I would be able to get to this point where I'm saying that I'm grateful for this experience, because it was so painful and it was so horrific. But I've been able to turn that pain into my purpose. And I know so many other women who have experienced similar things, and now they're like a beacon of light for their friends that have gone through similar things, for their daughters, for their siblings, for random people that just feel like they can open up to them. And so, if you've had this kind of experience, I really hope that, or maybe not even specifically this experience, but my hope for you is that my lesson from this, and me, blaming this person for all of the turmoil that I had with myself, and me being able to look at that and say, I'm no longer giving this person my power. This person doesn't deserve this. Like, I am taking my power back, and it's my responsibility to heal. I really hope that that this can help you see that, or help you experience that. I know that it's not easy. Like, nobody should ever ask us to forgive our abusers. However, if we do, we will be set free. And I can say that because I've experienced it. And that's how we have to look at this. It's like, I'm being set free from the hold of this person. I'm being set free from the impact that they had on me. I'm setting myself free of all of it because I deserve a happy, thriving, prosperous life. And I hope that that you can feel that way too. And like, to be honest, this conversation, like, I don't know if you guys could tell how nervous I was, but like this specific relationship experience is the hardest one to talk about for me. Because of the depth of it and how young I was and just everything that happened. I mean, this stuff isn't easy to talk about, but this was the most traumatic relationship of my life that really was the catalyst for everything else and has played a part in the woman that I am today and the relationships that I have today and the work that I do. So if you resonate with this, if you want to put your comments in the comments section, if this helps you in any way, share your biggest takeaway from this experience. But I did want to share this all with you so that you can see how each experience of mine does come with a learning lesson. And then you can start applying that to your own experiences so that you can be that self-healer. And if you feel like you need support in this, like, this isn't an easy feat. And I know that. So this is what I help all my clients do. So if you feel like you need extra support in this, definitely DM me privately and we can chat. All right, ladies, have a great rest of your day.